the evaluator on this. I evaluate them, and I also will evaluate Tim topics as well.
Okay, thanks, Donovan. Cheyenne, can you tell us about the odd counter and the grammarians rule tonight?
Yes, so the alt counter keeps track of filler or crutch words, but, so, things like that. And also the grammarian keeps track of any misuse of the English language. Also give you the word of the day, which is Genesis. And that meaning is the origin or coming into being of something. Used in the sentences, it was the genesis of a new political movement.
Great, thanks, Cheyenne. And I forgot to also ask for Maurice to share with us the club business for tonight that he has
Okay,
to share with us.
the little club business that we have tonight is, if you hadn't already gotten the email or whatever, is that we are a select distinguished club for this year. I don't remember since I've been a member that our club has been distinguished any year. Lawrence may correct me on that, but I don't remember us being distinguished any year. And we have 20 members.
Excellent.
At the moment, potentially 21 before the end of the year, which I guess our next week will be our last meeting of this year. But that'll be our base for next year, 20. So we just have to maintain 20 throughout the year.
Okay.
And we've gained, just another tidbit of information, through our meeting our goals, we had a total of 16 new members throughout this year.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we've got a really great foundation of accomplishments, and I'm sure in the next 365 days to come, those accomplishments are just going to grow higher and higher and higher, and we're going to get so sick of winning. So sick of winning.
Yes, aren't you tired of winning?
Okay. I think that hits all the major points that we need to do before we get into the prepared speeches tonight. So I'm also the Toastmaster tonight, if that hasn't been made clear yet by now. And I will give the first prepared speech of tonight. And this will be a pocket speech on the topic of internet distractions. I want to begin this speech by sharing with you all the background to my computer monitor, which says, "Are you opening me to distract yourself from something more important?" And I was inspired to put this background on my desktop because in the past year, since I've started doing this chemistry degree program, I'm scrunching a 4-year chemistry degree into the span of 2 years. And what that entails is a lot of upper level classes all at once, which is not recommended for an undergrad student to do, period. And the reason why I'm choosing to embark on this is because this is going to be my second degree. I'm tired of doing school unnecessarily. I want to do this degree ASAP and get started on a PhD program to accelerate the rate at which I become an adult faster. Because I'm sick of being a student. I want to start being able to provide for myself and also give back to my parents because they've done so much for me since the moment I started breathing on this planet. And the key I have found to being able to succeed in this accelerated program is the use of time management skills. And I think what really helped me start to develop my time management skills better is a thorough analysis on what is preventing me from using the time in a wise and a smart fashion. And for me, I can say without a doubt, my vice is the internet. YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Reddit, you name it. I can think of so many different procrastinating websites to use on a daily basis. And surprisingly, the post that actually inspired me to get this background was from a subreddit that I subscribe to that is all about productivity. And the title of this subreddit post was essentially the question of, what are you looking for when you go online? And the first sentence underneath that post was, whatever you're looking for, you're not going to find it here. And by here, he means the internet, in my view. Because I think the internet has become a really important tool for us to get information. However, due to the success of Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and all these social media websites, it becomes really easy for us to want to go down the rabbit hole of social media, of seeing what our friends are doing on a daily basis, and it is sometimes a cruel reminder of how other people are sometimes living more exciting lives than we are at this moment, when we choose to scroll through the newsfeed and things like that. And so that subreddit post, that really touched me. It made me start thinking about, okay, when I'm going on Google Chrome, when I'm going on the internet, what is motivating me? What thoughts are going through my mind that inspire me to want to go on Facebook, or to go on Instagram, or to go on YouTube? And I can say with confidence that 9 times out of 10, it's because I want to not think about a responsibility of mine, like completing my chemistry homework. And so that is a big reason why that post inspired me to have this background, to always remind me when I'm opening my laptop, what purpose is that for? Is it for a meaningful purpose, or is it for a superficial purpose? And I will still admit that there comes times where I don't read this, and I look at Facebook for too many minutes, or I watch YouTube video, and I say, I can't tell you how terrible YouTube is for me, because I consistently, every night before I go to sleep, I say I'm just going to watch 20 minutes of YouTube. But those 20 minutes become 2 hours. And let me be clear that these internet companies, they build these programs with an algorithm in mind. YouTube builds a recommended feed beside every video you watch that is tailor-made to keep you on that site, because more time on those sites means more ads, which means more revenue. So it is not, I want to be clear with everyone tonight that YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, it is not in their best interests to diminish and give you more self-control over the sites that you visit. The solution is going to come from within, from a willingness to accept that this is your vice, that this is a problem that you want to address. And it is your responsibility to look for these tools, because they're not going to be coming from the people who earn money from you spending time on their site. So that is a brief meditations that I've had on my relationship with the internet. And I hope that my expression of the potential unhealthy and also healthy sites and habits that one can exercise with the internet will inspire you all to also have a self-critical and thorough evaluation of what kind of purpose do you want with the internet, because it's only going to become more and more a part of our lives. That's going to end my pocket speech for the night. Thank you. Okay, now we're going to transition into our other prepared speech for tonight, and that's going to be by Luke Green himself. Let's welcome up to the lectern.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. All right, guys, give me just 1 second on the scoop this lectern back, and just a hair here.
Do you need the monitor on?
I'm good.
You're good? Okay.
Okay, good evening, fellow Toastmaster members. I hope you can see my small little slides up here. Tonight I'm going to be giving a speech on the 11 missions that the Coast Guard conducts, my experience with them, and all the information that you're about to see or I tell you is what happens on these missions in one typical day. So the first mission that the Coast Guard conducts is ports waterways and coastal security in an average day. Provides a major presence in every port. We do 4 high security or high interest vessel boardings. So what's that mean? It means that we have intelligence and we actually go out and identify, actively find these vessels, these personnel board the vessel. We also provide a waterside escort for 1 military supply ship. So what does that mean? So any kind of military ship that comes into port, docks in the harbor, we set security zones around, or we follow them out, set a security zone around. Any kind of small boat or any personnel trying to get to that ship gets pushed away. So, number 2 is drug interdiction. So a lot of units in the Coast Guard do drug interdiction, but the main ones that do it are your large Coast Guard cutters. Hard to see in this picture here, but this man here is actually standing in front of a large Coast Guard cutter. You just can't tell. The reason why they have a lot of luck with it is because they are able to get out on the high seas. They get out there where the smugglers are coming in and stop them way before they get to our borders. On board those cutters, they have really fast, high response small boats. Also, they have helicopter crews that are nicknamed Hitron, and they have gunners on board. They're able to launch these helos, notify where these assets are, and then they either fire warning shots to these guys, or they're able to even shoot out the engines of some of these vessels. So in a typical day, the Coast Guard keeps a half ton of cocaine off the streets. Number 3, so aids in navigation. So this is the first kind of mission that I actually did in the Coast Guard. And what this is the aids in navigation are out on the water. That's what the mariners use to have safe navigation in and out of ports. So buoys and any kind of day markers. So what we would do, we'd actually pick up these buoys. You bring them up on deck, we check the chain, we check the actual buoys, we check the lighting characteristics to make sure that everything's working properly, and then we drop them back in the water. So on a typical day, the Coast Guard services 115 buoys and fixes 27 discrepancies. Number 4, search and rescue. So pretty much every unit in the Coast Guard does search and rescue. Every unit I've been to, we have done a little bit. It might not be your primary mission, but it could be basically like your 3rd or your 4th. But all Coast Guard units basically do search and rescue. In a typical day, it saves 11 lives, conducts 66 search and rescue cases, saves $433,000 in property, and rescues 54% of mariners in distress. 5, living marine resources law enforcement. So what this is, I was stationed on an 87-foot patrol boat out of Pensacola, Florida. We go out and we target commercial fishing vessels. So we go on board, we're actively checking their catch, we're checking their nets, we're making sure they're catching what they're supposed to be catching, what size it is, then we check the credentials of the crew, the master, and make sure that they have all the proper paperwork and everything. So in a typical day, Coast Guard boards 15 fishing boats to ensure compliance with federal laws. Marine safety. So there's a rate in the Coast Guard called Marine Science Technician. They basically deal with this. It dives into actually going on the cargo vessels, really getting into the manifest and figuring out what's on board. They issue credentials to these guys, and they also do casualty investigations. So if boats collide on the water, the Marine safety side goes out and does investigations. Defense readiness. So Coast Guard has units here on the homeland, and we also have units abroad. So 2 that come to mind is over in Bahrain and then down in Guantanamo Bay. So I was at a small boat security unit up in Seattle, Washington, and we actually got deployed to Guantanamo Bay for 6 months and did waterside security for the base down there. This is the actual boat that we used to drive. And so in a typical day for defense readiness, it says has 6 patrol boats and 400 personnel protecting Iraqi's maritime oil infrastructure, training Iraqi naval forces, enforcing UN sanctions in the Arabian Gulf. Like I said, also down in Guantanamo Bay, and we still have a pretty active presence down there. Migrant interdiction. This is the only mission that I haven't done in the Coast Guard yet, and my friends that have done it said it is a pretty sad case, because a lot of these people that are coming over the United States they're trying for, just to have a better life. And you have women, children, men as well, and they're coming over in some pretty deplorable conditions, health-wise and safety-wise. And obviously there are people out there exploiting this too, but this is definitely a tough mission from what I've heard. On a typical day, interdicts 14 undocumented migrants trying to enter the United States. Number 9, marine environmental protection. So the unit I just left, the Gulf Strike Team, we did chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear response. We also did heavy emphasis on oil spills, chemical spills, train derailments, urban search and rescue, and salvage. And so this is the exact main mission that I was just doing. In a typical day, investigates 11 pollution incidents, inspects 55 hazardous materials containers, and inspects 30 foreign vessels for compliance. Number 10, ice operations. So the Coast Guard has 3 different icebreakers, and I got to sail down to Antarctica, and we used to break ice through to McMurdo Station, and we'd escort freighters in and out of the ice channel to supply the science station down there. We'd also go north and take science, a lot of scientists with us, and they're testing the waters, ice, and looking at some of the wildlife up there too. Other law enforcement, the only thing I can kind of relate this to me would be on the 87 I spoke of earlier. They sent us down to Texas to where the Mexico-U.S. border meets. We literally drove our patrol boat down that line and would catch illegal fishermen fishing in U.S. waters, but then they would dart back over to the Mexico side and literally sit there 30 feet on the Mexico side after we saw them in U.S. waters, and we couldn't do anything about them, but we would end up catching their nets. Sometimes we catch them in their boats, and we get to seize both, but it was kind of sad just hauling in hundreds and hundreds of yards of nets just full of dead sharks, fish, and everything like that. And so it was definitely kind of sad. That is the 11 missions of the Coast Guard. I hope you guys learned something new tonight. I think most people think it's just synonymous with search and rescue, which it is, but we definitely do a whole host of other things. So I'll turn it back to Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you so much, Luke. I'm really glad I could listen to the speech tonight, because ever since I've lived here in Mobile, I know that I know there have been people whose parents I've known who've been employed by the Coast Guard, but I never wondered what responsibilities were in the Coast Guard. So I really appreciate you sharing about that. And I also really appreciate the marine and environmental enforcement that the Coast Guard pursues on a daily basis. I think that's really cool. So I'm really glad I could listen to that tonight. All right, folks. So we're done with the prepared speeches portion of our meeting tonight, and now we're going to transition into the table topics portion of our meeting, which is going to be led by Luke, again, a returning visitor to the lectern. So let's have Luke come back to the lectern again.
Okay, so everybody's favorite time of night, table topics. I kind of say that with sarcasm, but if Lawrence was here, I think it is his favorite time of night. I guess we'll start off with any volunteers first. And how much do I have time for? How many? Three or four?
Oh, we're ahead, so definitely 4 or 5, I would say. Yeah.
Do we have any volunteers to start off with? All right, Tyler. So when I first started off public speaking, like everything had to be perfect. Like if I messed up even a little bit, if I felt my face get red or anything, it really bothered me and I felt like I failed. So my question to you is there such a thing as perfect?
So for the genesis of my table topic speech, I want to start off by saying that no, there is no such thing as perfect. Perfect is something you can attain, you can try to strive for. It's something you can have as a goal. It can be a mark to aim at, but it's something that no one is ever going to achieve. Now, it doesn't mean that striving for perfection is wrong. In fact, by striving by perfection, you get better and better each time and closer to perfect. But if we ever could reach perfect, like if we were capable of hitting that epitome and said, you know what, I'm done, everything's perfect, then we would simply stop. being human. Like that's part of what makes us human. That's what makes us want to become more. Is that there's no limit to what we can succeed at, to what we can become. So I will conclude my table topic with no, there's no such thing as perfect, but it doesn't mean we shouldn't strive for it.
Thank you, Kyler. Are you sure you weren't like a member in the past? You seem so natural and easy up here.
I did it when I was a kid, so I enjoyed it.
Good. Is there any other volunteers? Shiny? Okay, I'm up. Pick a hard one for a little bit. No, I'm just kidding. Let's see here. So every night I live out in the country. I love sitting on my porch. I love just looking out the field, watching the sunset, and that's my time to my time to relax. And that's something that in my life that I definitely don't want to live without. So my question to you is, what do you have or need that you cannot live without?
What do I have or need that I can't live without? Well, I stay in the country too, and the last thing I'm gonna do is sit out on my porch. Roads are terrible. There are things that I can't even identify out there, so that's not gonna work for me. Well, something that I cannot live without is, I would imagine, is family or friends or my loved ones. Whenever there's something good going on or something bad, I like to know that there's somebody that I can talk to, hey girl, you're not gonna believe what happened today, or man, you're not gonna believe what happened today. But I need energy from other people, and I always try to be what someone else needs, and I like to involve people or keep people close to me that shares the same type of energy. So if there was one thing that I could not or would not want to live without, is my loved ones.
Thank you, Olivia. All right, Cheyenne. So I got tasked one time to, public speaking has always been really hard for me. That's why I started Toastmasters. I got tasked at work to go be situation unit leader, had to brief 50 to 70 people at a time. That was one of my biggest fears. And I was able to do it by coming to Toastmasters. My question to you is, has your greatest fear ever come true?
I've been asked if my greatest fear has ever come true. I have many fears. Small fears, significant, not as significant. I would say one of my more significant fears has come true. One of my dearest family members passed away about 2 years ago, very unexpectedly. He was in good health. It was my grandfather. He raised me after my father passed away. So one of my worst fears, besides like spiders or clowns, was the thought of losing one of my significant others that are very close to me. I know a lot of people lose grandparents, but they maybe didn't see them as much, or they weren't as close to them, but this man raised me. It took me in, and him and my grandmother pretty much adopted me. And he was a Superman. He was 80 years old, still riding four-wheelers, still living life, and walking around and being very active. So the thought of losing him was out of my mind. Didn't seem like it was possible. So when he passed, it was one of my greatest fears come true. So, but we love him, and his memory lives on, so it's not sad. It is sad, but he left an impact, and he was a great man. So thanks.
Thank you, Cheyenne. Sorry to hear about your loss. I just hope when I'm 80 I can be out doing something. Got another volunteer. Okay. All right. So one of the things that I was sitting in the shop the other day, and the guy said to him and his wife, actually I'm not going to read that one, I'm sorry. So I love backpacking and hiking. one of the things I've always wanted to do is hike like Pacific Crest Trail, Appalachian Trail, in whole, not in parks, you know. But I can't get the time to do it right now. So Heather, my question to you is, what one thing have you not done that you really want to do?
Good evening, fellow Toastmasters. There's actually a lot of things that I have not done that I would really like to do. I'm always interested in learning new things, but one thing in particular that I was thinking of earlier that I really would like to do is learn how to play the drums. This is something that years ago I started taking lessons, and it was just kind of like an on again, off again thing, and it never I never kept up with it, but I still just love listening to people play the drums, and it's definitely something that I really like to do personally. So that is my answer, Mr. Toastmaster.
Okay, so one more?
Yeah, I think one more done.
One more? Okay.
I'm curious what the guy was saying about his wife. The deeds,
What's that?
the one you didn't do. He said the guy
Oh
was-
no, I kind of screwed up. I don't think I wrote down the one that I thought I was
Oh.
doing, and I got confused. Maurice, so this is the one I had for Lawrence, because to me, I felt it was kind of hard to do, and Lawrence is really good at tabletop, so I want to kind of challenge him a little bit, so I'm going to give this one to you. Can you describe your life in a 6-word sentence? And then kind of just elaborate after that sentence.
6 words.
And use the word of the day.
Yeah.
In the 6 words.
Can I describe my life in 6 words? Since I'm short on time, and it's going to take really a long time to think of something, I'm just going to try to hit it in a few seconds. My life in 6 words. The genesis of something real great. And elaborate on that. Every day is a new beginning for me. And I like new adventures, learning new things. Once upon a time, I guess as I was entering adulthood, I thought I knew everything. And I always was not interested in learning a lot of new things because I thought I knew everything. But now, today, even today, this is the genesis of something real great, Mr. Toastmaster.
I think you did great on that one, Maurice. I think when I read that question in my house, I got nervous for some reason. I don't even know why, and I was just writing it down. So I think you did great. That's all I have, and I'll turn it back over to Joseph.
Thank you so much, Luke. People to start thinking outside the box for those types of questions. Okay. Now we're going to switch into the evaluation portion of our meeting, and that's going to be led by none other Heather. Let's welcome her up to the lectern.
The meeting started just a little bit late, just about 1 minute late, but everything went pretty well, especially considering that we didn't have any pre-planned speakers. So thank you to Diego and Luke for delivering some pretty good speeches. Aside from that, the table topics went pretty well. The flow for the rest of the meeting up till now has gone fine. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and introduce our evaluator for both speeches, Olivia.
I have the pleasure of evaluating your speech. So I was going to use that, but I just got a little freestyle. So the title of your speech was Internet Distractions. I think you had a nice opening. I like the visual aid. Why you, what did you say?
are you opening me to distract yourself from something more important?
Right, right. The point to make you think was when you said, what are you looking for? And your chances are you're not going to find it here. I think you may have gotten a little excited at one point. You kind of stuttered a little bit. And then you did a large pause. So I thought you were getting ready to change topics, but you didn't. You kind of finished your sentence. Didn't say So I like the fact that you noticed that you were, oh wait, let me gather myself. And I think you did an awesome job. Your speech was very informative. I like to talk about algorithms. I use that word quite often, and I know people don't always pay attention to what that means. So for those that don't know, you explained what an algorithm was and how the algorithms are used on Facebook or social media sites to zap your time away. It was informative and relatable. The closure, I think you made it very clear what you were wanting to convey, which was the purpose of the speech, and that you want to bring awareness to us all about internet distractions. I will say that when you first started speaking, I was like, okay, internet distractions in what? I was drawing ideas, but the moment you said time management, I was like, oh, that's what it means. How the internet can be a distraction. So I like time management maybe as a co-title or something of your speech, because immediately, it kept me thinking, it kept us on our toes, because I want to know what were you meaning by internet distractions, but you were meaning the way internet can be a distraction, or that's what I gathered from it. So time management, when you said that, I was like, okay, that's your title. Or along with internet distractions. I think your speech was informative, you moved around, you did do a little vocal variety, and I liked it. Thank you very much.
Now, Olivia, to evaluate Luke's speech.
The Coast Guard. I really enjoyed your speech. I think it was really informative, let me just say it that way. The visual aid, it's kind of small, but this is an intimate group, so of course the PowerPoint would have been awesome. You looked around the room, I think you engaged us very well. The PowerPoint was still very legible, and I think you could have presented it all different type of ways, but the point that you just kept it stationary here and you kind of stood out to the side, we knew we had focal points. We looked at you, we looked at the visual aid, and I thought it was great. I thought I knew quite a bit about the Coast Guard, so I realized that I don't. It's quite a bit I didn't know. Some of the things that I was in awe about was the Coast Guard having icebreakers. I never even thought about that. And the search and rescue, I knew about that, but the migrant interdiction, 14 migrants a day. I'm going somewhere with this. So my point that I thought was that you were in a rush. That's a beautiful speech. It was awesome, but it was a lot of information, and I think you had 6 to 8 minutes. So it was a lot. It was kind of overload. And so when I got to the end, I was thinking, if I had to choose, I probably would, present those 11 things that the Coast Guard do and just say, but I want to talk to you about this one, this one, this one. These are my passions, or this is things that a lot of civilians don't know about the Coast Guard. So maybe something like that. It just seemed a little bit rushed, but I was in awe about it. I thought it was very informative. You did a great job. Did not have a huge amount of vocal variety, but I took that speech almost as if it was just a learning tool. It's like we were almost in class, so, and if you were the teacher, I think you did an awesome job. You definitely kept my attention, so I think the point was well made, and we just thank you for your service.
Thank you, Olivia. I know it can be a challenge to evaluate, especially 2 speeches, so it was great of you to take that on. At this time, we will now have our timers report by Don.
The two pocket speeches, Diego, you had 5 minutes and 59 seconds. You had 7 minutes and 47 seconds. I knew that it was like way over, but it didn't matter to me because it was a great speech, and I'm really interested in that stuff. That's why I lost the time. For the table topics, Kettle, you only have 54 seconds. Olivia, you have 7 seconds. Cheyenne, you have 1 minute and 26 seconds. Heather, you have 47 seconds. Maurice, you have 1 minute and 15 seconds. For the two evaluations, Olivia for the first time was 2 minutes and 42 seconds. The second time you were 2 minutes and 16 seconds.
Okay, thank you, Donovan. And now we'll hear from our grammarian and all-counter attorney.
David, for your speech, you had 3 crutch ends. So you'd start the sentence with and. It wasn't too distracting, but just because I was listening for it. And you had 1 crutch, I think. And then that was it for that. Luke, you had 20 ums and 15 us. Those who are doing pocket speech. So. And then for table topics, Kyler used the word of the day. I had 3 ums and 1 you know. I had 1 Heather, you had 2 ums. And then Marisa didn't count any, but you did use the word of the day. And then Olivia, in your evaluations, I only caught 2 us and 1 And that was it.
Okay. Thank you again to all of our evaluators. At this time, I will relinquish the lectern back to our Toastmaster Dee.
Thank you, Heather, for leading a good evaluation period of our meeting tonight. And a special thank you to everyone tonight. I know we were a smaller crowd tonight, and I really appreciate everyone double dipping and taking on multiple roles, especially Olivia's role. I know that took a lot of work on her part, so we really appreciate it. 3?
You guys, you had 3 roles?
I had 3 roles?
Well, you were president, and then you were Toastmaster. Yes.
Oh, but I mean, I think the president and the toast thing, they like go hand, like they're like really, they're like melt together.
You did a great job.
All right. I don't have an education overview topic for tonight. Does anyone have any education overview topic they want to share tonight?
I'll share a little something.
Okay.
It's not
Thanks,
a
Maurice.
formal.
Let's welcome to the podium. Lectern, my bad.
Yes, fellow Toastmasters, I just want to briefly talk about next year as far as goals and meeting the Distinguished Club goals. When I was president a few years ago, there were a few things that I didn't know about. It's partly my fault because if I could have read the district leadership book, I would have known a few things. But one thing there was a few things I didn't know about, such as the area council. I mean, it exists in Toastmasters, but it wasn't really implemented, at least in our area, during my time as president. And there was quite a few things that I didn't know as president that I learned later on. But one thing I want to hit upon next year as Vice President of Education is the Distinguished Club program, and I would like to get the goals for every member of the club, not just the amount that's enough to achieve a goal, but just get everyone's individual goals. And of course, you do Toastmasters at your own pace. I mean, you don't have to be dictated to finish a certain amount of speeches in a certain amount of time, but that's one thing I would like to do. And that goes into the club success plan, so we can strive to be distinguished every year, not just this year, but each and every year. So that is a little tidbit of education overview, Mr.
Toastmaster.
Thanks, Maurice. I really appreciate taking the time to remind everyone that it's important for us to maintain this momentum and you know, we set a really good foundation this year, and let's make sure that we continue to build that foundation as a group together, helping everyone out. Okay. I don't think we have any awards tonight, so let's take the next few minutes to pre-fill the agenda for next week. Let's see. Do we have any volunteers for a prepared speech? Toastmaster, Heather, you're going to do a prepared speech next week? Excellent. Excellent.
I'll try my best to get one prepared.
Okay, great. Okay, so it sounds like we're going to be good on the prepared speeches portion of our meeting. Do we have volunteers for general evaluator, grammarian, counter, table topics? Olivia's going to do table topics. What about the Toastmaster or counter, grammarian? Any volunteers?
Can do the Toastmaster.
Okay, great.
I'll do a general evaluator.
General evaluator? Awesome. Counter? Great, we're filling up these roles like hotcakes. I can't seem to get this program to work. Or it's not letting me see. Okay, yeah, it's not letting me able to see the next meeting. So we're just gonna go up this. So we've got general evaluator. We're gonna need, if we have prepared speeches, we're gonna need evaluators as well. Do we have any volunteers for the 2 evaluators? I can do 1 evaluation. So that way, hopefully if we have when we have our second speech, we can get a second evaluator as well. All right. Well, I think we got at least 90% of the roles filled tonight, which is really great. Just remember to log on to your Easy Speak and mark when the meeting is open for next week to sign up for the roles that you committed to. I don't think we have any other pressing business to share.
Okay, just one more thing.
Yeah.
Would you like your pocket speech to be an evaluation and feedback speech on your level 1?
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea.
Yes. I can send you that evaluation
Oh, okay.
sheet.
So I can fill it out officially.
Yes. And then on that one, you can either repeat it based on your feedback, or you can do another one based on the feedback that you got on that speech.
That sounds good. Yeah, that sounds like a good way so we can continue working on the pathway stuff.
Yes.
Okay. Okie dokie, gang. Meeting adjourned.